I got the fire flow. Shorty getting down, going up the fire pole. Radical, intermittent where we mad cold. I got the bullfrog flow, you a tadpole. Feel the love, feel the rush, feel the buzz, let it brush ya. Bald eagle clutch on the mic, what's up?
Welcome to someone's favorite movie. Hello, hi, how are you? My name is Randy. With me is the man they call Tomko. What's up, sir?
Oh, just hunkering down and watching stupid, pretty bad movies, to be honest.
Oh man, you're just living the American dream. I mean,
You know what? It's not a bad way to pass a couple days. I'll give you that.
See, I mean, when you were in college, you just dreamed of this. You were like, man, if I could only sit around and watch shitty movies all day, that would be the life.
You know what? If I could go back in time and talk to 12-year-old Tom, I'd let him know, hey, you made it.
You made it, kid. Don't give up. Things might seem dark now, but one day you'll be watching all sorts of foolishness.
Yes, you too can force yourself to watch all 8 Leprechaun movies.
Hey, I mean, who else can say that in this world? Very few people. You're rare company, sir.
It's just the cinematic equation of self-flagellation, sir.
Listen, next time you're up for a promotion or a job or whatever, you can put on your resume, you watch all the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies and the Leprechaun movies. They'll be very impressed with your ability to endure hard times.
Yes, I will take on a project and see it through, God damn it.
Yeah, you will. That's what I appreciate about you, Tomko. Yes. Mm-hmm. But right now, this episode, we're going to cover a little something else. It's April Fool's Day. You ever been the victim of a real great April Fool's gag there?
No, I actually haven't. Not that I think of it. I mean, maybe something stupid from elementary school, but nothing that stands out in my memory. What about yourself?
People know better. They see me and they're like,
have you been the pranker?
Well, I had a wild hair up my ass one time when I used to work.
As opposed to just the tame hairs that are normally, resting there?
Yeah. This one was real wild, real curly. Really wanted me to get into some stuff. So I thought it would be a real hilarious idea at the place where I worked at, it was a hardware store, and there was an older lady there that I was friends with, and I was going to tell everybody that I was going to hide in the back, and they were going to tell her that I got in a real severe car accident.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, nobody thought that was funny or a great idea, so that got shot down. So
I actually, it wasn't April Fool's, but in high school I had a gym teacher help us skip class, and then at the end of the hour, he snuck us back into the classroom and, hauled us to like a little side room where they keep all the equipment, and he made all kinds of noises like he was furious and beating us.
Nice. I like that.
Yes, and I will never, ever forget the looks on my classmates' faces as we walk out into the main gymnasium. Just the look of horror and fear, and maybe even a little bit of concern on their face made the entire day worth it.
Yeah. You know what would have made that a much better story?
What's that?
If you would have just said, hey, this happened on April Fool's Day.
Well, I have to be honest with people.
You are an honest man. I appreciate that too.
I try.
You try. I mean,
don't always succeed, but I try, damn it.
I know. You tell me how much you like doing this podcast, and sometimes I'm like, do you though? Do you? So
I try.
Oh, it's time to do a segment. It's called What Are You Watching? So what are you watching, Tomko?
Oh, I think I am like everybody else on the internet, and I've watched Tiger King on Netflix. Have you had a chance to lay your eyes on that mess of humanity yet?
Not yet. Me and my Pookie, my girlfriend, who I'm quarantined from, we've been watching movies like long distance. So we'll queue up a movie and then text about it and whatever. But now Netflix has this thing. Well, I guess Google Chrome has this thing where it's an extension. You can enable it and do a Netflix party. Where
yeah,
Where
Yeah, I've heard about that. Now, you probably can't do it on your television, so
no,
you'll have to sit in front of your computer all awkward like for hours on end.
yeah, how is that different than any other day I live my life? Really?
Well,
So
I can't lay on the couch in front of my computer.
I can lay in my bed on my computer though.
Fair enough.
See? Don't
Yeah,
you?
but that would require me to actually move physical objects. What a pain in the ass.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, sir. I mean, I know you're all cooped up and you're not working, but a little physical activity won't hurt.
No, that's the deal I made with myself. If I can't work, I'm not going to do any work. Period.
I'm just gonna lay here like the biggest lump.
Yes.
But to answer your question, no, I have not watched it yet. And it's amazing to me how some shows, such as this, like immediately, for whatever reason, everybody watches them all at once, and it's the biggest thing ever all of a sudden.
I'm assuming that you have heard of a online critic on YouTube. His name's Jeremy Johns.
I believe so.
He reviewed it and he kind of summed it up. He said that this is the most memeable program ever.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Okay.
And I mean, you probably know all of the bullet points by now, but you just sit back and you just watch this train wreck of a story unfold. And even though you know what's going to happen, you just kind of sit on edge waiting for that next piece of the boulder to come barreling down. It's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't even know what this guy was like or anything, and I saw a clip today and I'm like, oh gosh, maybe this is something I need to watch, because I resisted it because I'm one of those people. And then I was like, I saw the clip today of this man talking, and he was just the most insane man. And I'm like, hey, why haven't I watched this already? This is way up my alley.
I actually have the distinction of being able to say that I'm a Tiger King hipster because I knew about him before this. Again, on YouTube, I watch a lot of YouTube, probably more than I should. There's this one channel I watch called Priming, where he goes and does little video essays of weird internet personalities.
Oh, that's fun.
And he had a whole essay about this guy like 6 months ago. And I honestly thought that more people knew about him than did. But no, I guess I was ahead of the curve this one time.
I guess so. Man, you should have made a podcast or something about this months ago. You would have been such a visionary.
Son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. If only you could get that DeLorean working.
One day.
One day.
You know, if only I had spare time.
Yeah, right. Oh boy. Anything else?
I finally got a chance to watch Mandy.
Oh, okay.
The Nicolas Cage tour de force.
Yeah, it's Nicolas Cage at his cagiest.
Yes. My wife hated it.
Oh,
This was
Mrs.
one of those
Tomko.
Mrs. Tomko was furious at me, which normally she's a big fan of the ultra violence in her entertainment. So I rolled the dice and came up with snake eyes on this one. But I did a little bit of research on this, and I'm assuming you know who Carl Jung was, correct?
I do, yeah.
Turns out that if you know who Carl Jung was, you would know that he was a protege of one Sigmund Freud. And when the two of them kind of split off, eventually Jung decided to try experiments with hallucinogens. And he wrote a book of his experiences called The Red Book. And I guess that's what the main inspiration for that movie was.
Huh. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's all very, very closely tied into it. And it feels like a fever dream hallucination of a movie, really.
Yeah, it does. What with the colors and the surreal imagery and just Nicolas Cage's over the top performance.
Yes. I don't know if I've ever heard the word shirt pronounced in as grand a way as when he yelled, "You ripped my shirt."
That's one thing about the Cage Man. He really can enunciate. He puts some enunciations on some words that you don't know how they get there. You're not sure you've ever heard them pronounced that way. But man, he knows how to find it.
Yeah. And sometime during the end of the world, I gotta sit down and watch his new movie. What is it, like The Color of the Madness or something like that? I can't remember the exact name.
Color Out of Space, I think it's called.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I have that in my digital locker. I just haven't clicked play on it just yet because I'm watching too much YouTube.
Yeah, it's based on a H.P. Lovecraft story, so you know it's going to be wild and weird and wacky. And Nicolas Cage is in it, so yeah.
And I guess it's made by the original director of The Island of Dr. Moreau, the version with Brando and Val Kilmer.
Oh man, that movie's a nightmare.
Did you ever see the documentary about that movie?
I didn't see the documentary, but man, that movie is just really weird.
I guess the director was fired, and they brought in somebody else. And rather than going home like a normal person, the original director went off into the woods.
Oh yes,
Yeah, and was quietly sneaking back onto set incognito.
Yeah, I think one day he pretended he was a cameraman or something too.
Yes.
I heard that on a movie podcast I listened to. They were talking about that movie, and yeah, he just kept sneaking on the set to make sure that nobody was fucking up his vision, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, here you have this new movie based on an H.P. Lovecraft story, directed by possibly the craziest director in film right now, directing the certified craziest man in the acting world. What could go wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sounds perfect for some podcast of this ilk, for sure.
Yeah, this is prime fodder.
Someone's favorite movie fodder.
Yes. So what about you, sir? What have you been watching?
I watched, and I texted you about this, I watched Drag Me to Hell, a Sam Raimi joint.
Yes.
Written and directed, and boy, was this a treat.
Yes, I loved that movie. That was one of the most fun times I've had at a movie theater because I loved it to the point of obnoxiousness. I did.
Yeah, it's got a lot of disturbing imagery, ridiculous humor, ridiculousness. There's a evil talking goat at one point. There's a scene where the evil gypsy woman that put a curse on Alison Lohman's character, kind of her ghost or whatever attacks her in the shed, and through whatever series of events, an anvil ends up falling on the ghost's head, and it looks like a Looney Tune cartoon, and you're like, what's going on? What am I watching right now? It's pretty great.
Yeah, you could tell that this was the director of the original Evil Dead being given a budget. It has that Evil Dead feel to it.
It certainly does, and he wrote it right before he did. Well, he spent a decade of his life doing Spider-Man, and you could tell after that decade of Spider-Man, he was ready to let loose and be wild and crazy as possible.
Yes.
And it's
and like I said, when we were texting back and forth, it has one of the single best endings I've ever watched in a movie.
Yeah, it's a great ending. I mean, the ending is in the title, so I don't think that's a spoiler.
I don't think so.
But
yeah,
the ride to get
it
there
was so fucking awesome.
Yep. What else? Oh, I've said this before about Amazon Prime, but it reminds me of old video stores that you used to go into. Like there was always a lot of weird product on the shelves with like interesting box art or like interesting posters on the wall of movies that you never heard of and would never see.
Yeah.
I vividly remember, and if somebody can tell me what movie this is, I'll be forever in your debt. I remember walking into our local video store when I was a kid, probably 7 or 8, and there was this poster on the wall of a woman face down in front of a headstone, and she had no shirt on, so there was a lot of flesh there, and there was hands reaching out of the ground and grabbing her back as she laid face down on the grave. If anybody could tell me what movie that was, I would be in your debt because it's still stuck in my mind.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there are still a lot of movie boxes from back in the day that I haven't watched them because I don't think that the actual films could live up to the artwork.
Probably not.
The box art for In the Company of Wolves.
Oh, okay. Everybody, go ahead, take a
Yeah.
moment, Google it.
I'm
back
not
to
even. I'm not even going to describe it. Words cannot do it justice. Yes.
Now I'm highly intrigued.
Yeah.
But I feel like Amazon Prime is a lot like that. They've got a lot of weird stuff on their shelves. And all credit to Dan from Netflix and Swill. He's a listener and a pal. And I noticed he posted in the Epic Film Guys group that he was watching a movie called Aerobicide, a.k.a. Killer Workout. And I was like, oh boy, this looks right up my alley. And it's a slasher from 1987 and aerobics. And that's basically all you need to know.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so the movie starts out with this model. She's getting all these phone calls. Her career's starting to take off. She goes into her tanning bed, and the tanning bed somehow malfunctions and engulfs her in flames right off the bat. So, and then all of a sudden we get thrust ahead to a place called Rhonda's Gym, and there's all sorts of aerobic workouts going on, and one night after an aerobics class, one of the poor girls is in there taking a shower, and the slasher comes and kills her with the best. I mean, the lights go out, it cuts to the killer's point of view, and he holds up his weapon. It's a giant safety pin. I wish I was making that up, but I'm not. This is not an April Fool's joke. It's a giant safety pin. And she repeatedly gets stabbed. And throughout the movie, the killer uses that same weapon, at one point even plunging it into the forehead of a dude. And the dude immediately dies. And I'm like, I don't think that would happen. I don't think so.
What, that he wouldn't immediately died after having his head impaled?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's realistic.
By a safety pin?
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to stretch credibility, you know. I mean, there's artistic license here.
Okay, I suppose, and all throughout the movie, there's scenes of girls in tight aerobic outfits, you know, doing their workouts, and they hired some band or whatever to write music for this movie, and it's just one of the lyrics of the songs goes, "Gotta work out, have a workout." And that's the song. It's pretty great. So thanks to Dan, and Dan actually asked on Twitter, when are we doing an episode on Killer Workout with him? Well, here's the thing, Dan. During the movie, because all these killings are going on, so some street ruffians spray paint the outside of the gym with aerobicide and then Death Spa on it. Death Spa is another classic slasher movie with aerobics involved in it. If you can find me a copy of Death Spa, Dan, we'll do a Death Spa / aerobicide double feature.
I am in.
Excellent. That's your homework, Dan. So
I need this. I need this in my life.
You probably do. I don't know how you've made it this long without it in your life, but we're about to change things.
I do feel like I have a death spa hole in my heart right now.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm looking at this box art.
Yes, you see?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Can you
disturbing.
see how I said there is no way the movie could possibly live up to that?
No, it makes me want to watch it though.
Yeah, but still, I don't know if I want to be that disappointed.
Right, that's true too. Earlier today, I told you that I had something real exciting that I found today.
Yes, yes, I am very curious.
Okay, this is not an April Fool's joke.
Okay.
But I do have a quality question. Who would win in a fight, Tomko, Batman or Godzilla?
Well, does Batman have time to plan?
Yes.
Oh, and Batman.
Always Batman, huh?
If he has time to plan, or if Godzilla makes the mistake of letting them go alive, yeah.
So this is what I found out today. Back in 1962, after the success of King Kong versus Godzilla, the Toho company was looking for their next box office smash with Godzilla, and they were looking for somebody to cross them over with. And they picked Batman. This is true. I looked at multiple sources.
Really?
Oh, yes. So at one point, the guy that wrote King Kong versus Godzilla, Mothra versus Godzilla, took a stab at writing a Batman versus Godzilla movie.
Okay.
That did not work out. So by the time his pitch did not work, the Batman series, Batman 66, was going strong and was a ratings bonanza. So they turned to William Dozier?
Dozier, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the producer of the 60s show.
They turned to him and said, hey, write us a pitch for Batman meets Godzilla. And so he did. Now, I found a Grantland article. Grantland was the offshoot of ESPN, which is now The Ringer. It was basically their pop culture website for a while. And in this article, the author actually looked at the treatment, which is housed at the University of Wisconsin in William Dozier's private papers. I mean, I've got a lot of private papers. Maybe I should consider donating them to some college at some point after I die.
I'm sure Delta University would greatly take those.
Okay, Delta, you listening? You can have my private papers when I croak, all right? All right? So anyways, I'm going to describe the movie, and this is all real.
Oh.
So it starts off with Commissioner Gordon and his daughter, the luscious Barbara. They take a vacation off to the Far East, in quotes, on a cruise ship. Commissioner Gordon's scouting locations for new police facilities.
Okay. I'm not sure how that would work legally, but go on.
No, American cops do that all the time, you know? We can
Especially
open up
back in the 60s.
Yeah, we can open up a police shop here, huh? Barbara runs into one of her old classmates from Vassar College. Synergy, the kids from April Fool's Day went to Vassar College. Yeah. They're on the ship, and all of a sudden a rogue tidal wave attacks the ship, which is probably not the right way to word that sentence, but that's how I did it, so deal with it. And they discover that the cause of this tidal wave is from an evil German meteorologist named Klaus Finster.
An evil meteorologist? What is he going to, like, tell you that it's bright and sunny? You go out on a picnic and it's going to be like hailstorms?
Well, apparently back in the 60s, meteorologists did a lot more than just stand in front of green screens. Like this one says he can control the weather. He's going to destroy the world if he isn't given a ton of gold. I mean, that's a weatherman with ambition, right?
Hey. And he's got a funny accent to boot.
Yep, he does. But he doesn't actually control the weather. He actually only controls Godzilla, which is a fair trade-off, I suppose. I mean,
yes, I would make that trade any day.
Because Commissioner Gordon's there, Batman and Robin get on the case, and somehow they ended up fighting robots with guns for eyes. Because if you're a smart, evil German meteorologist, apparently you can build robots too. So, and then at one point, Batman and Robin are chasing bad guys through a Japanese bathhouse, and they get completely naked other than their masks because that's the tradition of a Japanese bathhouse.
Oh, you're making me uncomfortable.
Never mind the bat penis, old chum. Batman tries to fight Godzilla with Batmobiles and Batcopters, and nothing works, but it turns out Godzilla has a crush on Batgirl, because who doesn't? Hey, Batgirl, hey. So Batman thinks the good old Zilla there might be a little bit horny. So he builds a machine that imitates the sound of a female Godzilla in heat. Again, I repeat, this is not an April Fool's prank. This actually exists. This was an idea. So when Batman distracts Godzilla with the mating call of the female in heat, he climbs up Godzilla's back, ties a bat bomb to Godzilla's neck. The bomb knocks Godzilla out. Then the entire population of Japan assembles an entire freaking spaceship around the unconscious Godzilla, and then they shoot Godzilla into space to orbit the planet forever. LOL, the end.
How has this not been made into like some kind of unauthorized animated fan film?
A group looked at the treatment and actually made an unauthorized Batman 66 comic. You can find it for free on the interwebs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the only way you'll ever see it. I wish the movie actually happened because, oh my God.
The world was robbed, sir. I mean, just think about all of the tumultuous events in the 60s that could have been averted if the world had come together to watch Batman versus Godzilla.
I mean, you remember the Batman 66 series when he used to climb up, him and Robin scaled those walls?
Yes, and you'd have the guest stars pop their heads out of the windows and make some kind of witty remarks, of course.
I just imagine that, but up Godzilla's back. Careful, chum.
Damn it, no, I really want this.
I mean, all you have to do is talk to Warner Brothers, DC Comics, and Toho Entertainment and broker a deal. Why not?
I just don't have the time right now.
Okay. I'm just saying, if Batman can fight the Ninja Turtles, anything is possible.
Have you seen that, by the way?
No, I want to, but I haven't yet.
It is totally worth the hour and a half. It's one of those things that shouldn't work, but when it's in motion, it works perfectly well. It's amazing how good that was.
Oh, that's great. That's good to hear. Yeah, it looks interesting. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. I think there was a mini series too, comic series.
2 of them, if I remember correctly.
Wow. That's the one thing about DC Comics. They're not afraid to cross over with any sort of properties whatsoever. They're like, yeah, fuck it.
No. Marvel used to be pretty good about that. I still remember, what was it? X-Men meets Star Trek.
Yeah.
And then X-Men meets Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yep.
Those were halcyon days, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize I needed Batman meets Elmer Fudd until I actually got it. And then I'm like,
I haven't read that, but I heard it's amazing.
It's so good. I can't figure out why it's a thing that exists, but it works so well. That's great.
I'm going to have to hunt that up. I'll have to see if that's on DC Universe.
And Bugs Bunny is technically in it too, but he's a bucktooth bartender that tends bar at the
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. There's I feel like there's a Porky Pig analogy in there, analog in there too.
Please tell me he's a police officer.
No, I don't think so. I think he's like a mob boss or something like that.
Oh, damn it. Talk about a missed opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine all the hate mail DC would have got?
Worth it.
Yeah.
So worth it.
That's all, folks. All right, let's get to the main event, shall we?
Yes.
April Fool's Day. This one is kind of like an 80s slasher meets Clue, I thought.
Yeah. I think that's a very fair description.
What were your initial thoughts about this movie?
Are you talking about when I watched it last night or when I first watched it?
Either or. Like, did your opinion change?
Well, when I first watched it, I had to have been 11, maybe 12, and the ending pissed me off.
Gotcha.
To no end. And I hadn't watched it since then.
By the way, we will talk about the ending, but we're going to say spoiler beforehand because it has a big twist to it. So we'll say spoiler, and you don't have to listen to the rest of the episode until you watch it, or if you don't care, you've been warned.
And then as far as when I watched it again for the first time since 1990,
mm-hmm.
I was pleasantly surprised at how well it holds up, how well it was written, and how it laid everything out, and then it set all the pieces up and then knocked them down one by one. I was actually pretty impressed with this.
It's really well written. It was written by the man who wrote Beverly Hills Cop.
Okay.
Danilo Bach wrote this. And he did write Beverly Hills Cop, which was nominated for an Academy Award, believe it or not.
I absolutely believe that.
So, I mean, it does have a little bit of a pedigree behind it. And I say pedigree because this movie's about a rich girl that lives on a big secluded island in a big house, and all of her college friends come over spring break, which also coincides with April Fool's Day, to come hang out for the weekend and get away while they talk about college and their futures and their lives. That's the one thing that really stuck out to me is how well the dialogue was written and how well the characters actually existed, because usually in slasher movies that doesn't happen.
Yeah, the characters are always paper thin caricatures that are just there for the gore. Not so in this movie.
No, and it actually reminded me quite a bit of Black Christmas, which is a movie we covered in our archives.
I could see that, yeah.
Just based on the character work. I mean, the plots are completely different, really, but the characters, the college kid aspect, both are pretty solid in that regard.
Now, you were talking about the pedigree of this movie. The producer of it is also the guy that produced the main Friday the 13th movies during the 80s. I think it's Frank Mancuso Jr.
Yeah, he did 2 through 5, I think.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, it's kind of surprising that anything associated with that guy turned out as well as it was, because he was just cranking them out like a factory. Cheap, quick, produce them easy and get a quick buck in return. So I got to give a tip of the hat to him on this one.
Yeah. The soundtrack in this is pretty interesting too.
Especially that last song.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, that last song was great, but just the score to it is really weird. They did this thing, it's hard to even describe, but there's a tone that they used throughout the movie whenever something eerie was going on. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, something eerie's going on.
Well, if I had to describe this movie, I'd say it's a slasher movie that is well aware of the tropes of a slasher movie, but it was what, 1986?
Yeah.
A full 10 years before Scream.
Yeah, true. Uh-huh.
So I think that, again, it's just a very well-crafted movie that kind of, I think it was ahead of its time. I think it kind of guessed the audience's reaction to these slasher movies and played with those expectations.
The first murder that happens, so let's get to it. They all go to their college friend's house, Muffy St. John, which is quite the name if ever there was one.
It is the 80th of 80 yuppie names ever.
Yeah. And the beginning shows her in the basement while the housekeeper is leaving, and Muffy is muttering to herself that the party is going to be bloody unforgettable, and she's looking at this weird Jack in the Box or whatever. And then you cut to the pier when the college kids are getting ready to take off to the island, and a lot of them haven't met before, and they're just getting to know each other, and there's a lot of your fly is open jokes and ho ho ho, just a lot of stupid college kid humor, and it seemed to work. Then they get on the boat, and the worst April Fool's joke in the history of the world happens, where one of the characters tosses a knife, and it stabs the other one in the gut, and he falls overboard, and he's drowning and stabbed in the gut, and it was a big prank. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, so funny. Let's just make it look like I murdered somebody.
Yeah, exactly. That would almost be as bad as hiding in the back and telling your older coworker that you were in a horrible car accident. But I digress. And then right after that, one of the kids that are running the boat, his name's Buck, he's involved in a ridiculously brutal accident when the boat runs over his face.
Yes.
And he's taken away to the hospital. And then the
practical effects in this movie are top notch for the time that it was made, for the budget it was made with. Everything looked really good.
Yeah. And right off the bat, the characters are given like a chance to be characters. Like the scene in the kitchen where the girls are reading the magazine Sex Quiz. I guess most of that was improv. So, I mean, and they're all worried about their futures and blah 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 blah, except for Muffy, who she's a character that everyone is friends with, but she seems kind of mysterious throughout the movie, and as the movie goes on, she gets weirder and weirder and tends to recede in the background more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So you were mentioning the horror tropes. One of the characters, Skip, who is Muffy's cousin, goes off to the boathouse to smoke some pot, and he's grabbed by somebody and found dead the next day, which is a horror movie trope.
Very much so, yeah.
You do drugs, you have sex, you get killed.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the whole movie, there's also pranks going on, like whoopee cushions and broken chair legs. And
I thought the one with the lights was particularly clever.
What was the light one?
The couple are getting ready to settle in for the night and go to sleep. The guy reaches over to the end table, turns off the light, and all of a sudden, another light across the room turns on.
Oh, yeah.
He goes over to turn that one off, and the one that is hanging from the middle of the ceiling turns off. He turns that one off, and then the one on the nightstand turns back on.
Yeah, I remember that now. There's lots of more murders happen. Everyone starts panicking. Finally, the last two couples get a phone call to the sheriff. The sheriff had said that you need to stay away from Muffy. You shouldn't be in the house alone with her. And the last two couple, the guy and the girl that are left alive, they find a letter saying that Miss St. John has spent the last 3 years in a mental institution. They're like, how could that be? Muffy has been at college with us for the last 3 years. And then they discover that Muffy has a twin sister named Buffy. And okay, and they find Muffy's severed head in the basement.
I would hope by this point, any audience that was watching this in 1986 was getting kind of clued in on the fact that this wasn't serious. Muffy and Buffy, come on.
Okay, spoilers are about to kick in, so if
Yes.
you don't want to listen anymore, tune out. 3, 2, 1. So the woman gets chased by Buffy, who's carrying a machete, and she chases Buffy into this big room where all of her deceased friends are sitting there playing cards, smoking, drinking, having a good time, and they all turn and look at the frightened woman, and they look at Buffy. Buffy starts laughing. They all start laughing, and they say, ha, gotcha, fooled ya. And,
April Fools.
and meanwhile, her poor boyfriend's having a heart attack and going insane with fear because he thinks his girlfriend's getting murdered
Yes.
because
and
he got
then,
locked in the other room.
with the kid that had his face ripped off on the ferry.
Yeah, the kid who got his face ripped off on the ferry walks in and rips off the makeup effect that was the gore and puts it on the dude's face, and he's so out of his mind he doesn't even realize it. And then he bursts in the door and sees everybody, and everybody has a great laugh about it. And Muffy is like, well, I'm glad you all followed the clues and made it this far because I want to turn the house into a murder mystery getaway.
Essentially an escape room.
Yes, pretty much. And I can see how a young, bitter Tomko would be very pissed off by that movie.
Yes. Yes.
Because that ending is kind of I don't know. It's kind of a cop-out. It's not as bad as, like, it was all a dream. But it's kind of a cop-out.
Yeah, it did feel like a cop-out. But no, it was all laid out step by step by step, telling you exactly what was going on.
Yep. Yeah.
So no, I thought it was a damn good movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely one of the better 80s movies. I can see how like I was trying to say, when you're younger, I feel like you would be like, oh, that's stupid. But I appreciate it being older and sitting through all the crappy slashers that I've sat through.
Mm-hmm.
And it was refreshing to actually be like, oh. And, you know, I got a clue near the end there that I was like, oh, is this going to be a big April Fool's gag? And it was.
Well, yeah, especially because the clues were they weren't exactly inconspicuously placed.
No,
You open up a closet and there's a huge headline that's cut out with all of the important information circled in red.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious when you know the ending what is going on.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the movie, when Muffy is like, "Oh, this is going to be a bloody great party or whatever," she's playing with a female mannequin, which later becomes her severed head. But that's what she's doing in the basement. She's getting stuff ready. And then there's another gotcha moment at the end where Muffy's sitting down and on her bed, and she's kind of tipsy, and she's looking at her Jack in the Box that reminds her of her dad. And
well, not only that, but it was just kind of randomly placed on her bed, gift wrapped for her birthday.
Yeah. She's sitting there, and then one of the female characters grabs her.
It was the final girl, wasn't it?
Was it? No, I thought it was.
I think it was the final girl that pulled that last prank.
Oh, maybe it was. I thought it was the other one that nobody ever paid attention to, that was like studying all the time.
I'll have to go back and check that out again.
Yeah, maybe either way, one of the nameless blonde women grabs her and slits her throat, and Muffy panics and grabs it as the blood, and it's just a fake knife with a movie prop because they come from a theater background or whatever. So
no, I don't know. This was just a really fun, well-written movie. It was, again, it knew exactly what it was. It knew the weaknesses of the genre, and it kind of took the Paul Heyman approach: hide the weaknesses, accentuate the strengths, and then just go full tilt with that. Plus, I mean, it was a great turn by Biff from Back to the Future. Tom Wilson was one of the main characters. He was the guy that was constantly popping his collar because, come on, he's a preppy in the 80s. What else are they supposed to do?
Exactly. Apparently, there was another ending that may or may not have been filmed. It was written in the novelization of the movie, and it features an alternate ending in which Skip, who was the cousin character I referenced before that went off to smoke dope, turns out he's actually, Muffy does have a twin, but it's him. She's got a twin brother. In the alternate ending, Skip sneaks back onto the island after everyone else has left, and he's actually going to kill Muffy to get his share of the family money, and he actually falls and dies, and that's the ending.
That's awful.
It's so bad. Apparently, there are stills of it that exist, so they filmed it at some point, I guess.
No, that's terrible.
That is terrible. The other thing we need to really point out is how brilliant the freaking movie poster is for April Fool's Day.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
That was the thing that I remember kind of getting my attention as a kid.
Yeah. So all the characters are sitting at a dinner table, and the character of Muffy is standing there with a knife behind her back, but her hair is braided, and it's braided into a noose, and it looks so cool, that image.
Yes. So would I be safe in assuming that this is a movie that you would recommend?
Absolutely. I think everyone should give this a shot. And even if you know the ending, I don't think it takes away from anything.
Actually, I think it kind of makes it better because, again, you can see all of the pieces being, set up and then, getting knocked down one by one.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like a 80s slasher version of The Usual Suspects. You can't watch it the same way, that you did the first time around, but subsequent viewings are a different and somewhat better experience in a way.
And how many 80s slasher movies can you say that about? My God.
Not a lot, no.
Not a lot. For what it's worth, there was a straight-to-DVD remake in March 2008. I did not watch it because I knew it wasn't going to be any better. So why care? Why give it the time of day?
I salute your apathy, sir.
Thank you. I'm in my old age. I'm getting more apathetic, and I feel that's very appropriate. I mean, have you heard my internet persona?
Yes, I've been on the receiving end of your internet persona a couple times.
Sure. Apathy suits me just fine. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Speaking of internet personas, where can people find you, sir?
Well, you can find me on a little podcast called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. We put out a new episode every Sunday, Eastern Standard Time at 6 a.m. If you want to get in touch with us on Twitter, you can find me at The Drunken Dork and on Facebook at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group. What about yourself, sir?
I am at mretailslave on that Twitter, or search the hashtag Miserable Retail Slave, or join our Facebook group. Search Miserable Retail Slave on that Facebook.com. Miserable Retail Slave is a Big Dumb comedy show, and you'll probably enjoy it. So check that out if you like this. In the meantime, if you have any recommendations for movies we should check out, questions, comments, concerns, send me an email at someone'sfavoritemoviepodcast@gmail.com, and we will answer them.
Yes.
Yes. Next up, we got the entire Leprechaun franchise coming up.
Never let it be said that I don't suffer for my art, sir.
There it is. So if you're a masochist that wants to hear Tom Cohen pain, tune in next time. We'll see you then.
See ya.